Hello, everyone, and welcome to Quality Now. I'm your host, Lavender. This podcast is all about diving deep into meaningful conversations and elevating the quality of our life. I believe the power of quality time, which means being fully present with loved ones, friends, and family. Together, we'll explore relationship, self-development, and the moments that inspire us to live better. Join me on this journey to create a life full of quality moments right here, right now. Today, I'm excited to talk with my friend David. He blends gentleness with honesty, always speaks up when something doesn't feel right. Dedicated to quality conversations, he generously shared his insights and support others through challenges. His sensitivities to emotions has inspired me to be more aware and expressive. When I'm down, he's the first person I turn to without fear of judgment. I'm honored to have him as my first guest. I hope you like this episode. Let's dive in.
Got it. Okay, yeah, I went to my friend's daughter's birthday, and she's 7. Actually, there are two daughters, and they celebrate the birthdays together. It's 7 and 10 years old, and it's really remarkable seeing adults bring their children. So this is a birthday where the adults came. They had a kind of social event, and the children also came together and they had a social event. Everyone was kind of similar age, so they could play together. And it's really joyous seeing children just doing their thing in a very unorganized, very spontaneous way. And yeah.
Cool. Would they like be too noisy at sometimes?
Noisy. Well, that's what children are supposed to do when they're together. They're supposed to run around and be noisy.
Okay, no. I mean, sometimes some children they screaming. Yeah, I don't know. I met some kids in the coffee room or somewhere. They might not happy or they want to grasp the approval from their parents.
Yeah, maybe some children who are not well behaved or they have temper tantrums. I didn't experience any of those kinds of children. It was just a very lively, energetic experience. And seeing children run around doing things very naturally, purely, without any kind of phone, and this kind of relates to what we were talking about last week, how they just enjoyed each other's presence, and they didn't seek out any kind of distraction, or they didn't feel bored then had to grab an iPad. It was just a really beautiful scene to see, because I think in a lot of cases we wouldn't expect that. We would expect children to have temper tantrums, or we would expect children to become bored with something. And I would imagine that being in China, seeing lots of children together, you kind of would expect to see that kind of temper tantrum, or you would see children feeling very bored. And you would expect that the parents are kind of involved very heavily in trying to entertain the children. So being present, being involved, hovering over the children, trying to mediate conflicts between children. But that's something I didn't see. So that was just refreshing.
Cool. So how old are the most children yesterday?
They were like between 5 and 10 years old. I would say.
Oh, that's really cool, because I think at this age maybe some kids that they cannot play for such a long time.
Play for such a long time. I mean, we were there from 2 o'clock until 7, 8 o'clock, and yeah, I mean, the children just kind of ran around, did a thing. Adults just engaged with each other, had conversations, and it's not like the children were really seeking the parents' attention. There was a few who tried to stay around their parents, but then ultimately they still went and played. So I guess like in those kinds of moments, it not only makes me feel very heartened thinking about the healthiness of these young children, but it just makes me wonder, well, how is it that what I saw, what I experienced quite often in my work in China, why was that not the case?
Oh, so what's your experience when you're in China, like facing with the kids?
Yeah, lots of parents who are very involved in the children's play.
Okay.
Or children who wouldn't. I mean, you might oftentimes see this when you go to a shopping mall or something, and you see a big, lots of equipment, and parents have to pay like 500 RMB to allow their children to go into these play spaces. And the children are kind of in there, and they just are playing by themselves, or they don't know how to interact with each other. Or while their parents are kind of sitting on their phones or something. Right. That happens quite a lot. So what I oftentimes see when you have a bunch of children and a bunch of parents together is they're all kind of by themselves, quite isolated. They're not engaging with each other. They're not playing with each other. It's really strange that way.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like the children in this birthday party, they all knew each other. They went to the same school. So I guess they kind of were familiar with each other. So that makes it a little bit better. But there's just a lot of sad scenes of children growing up isolated in China, right? They go to school, and at the end of the day, they're picked up by their grandparents to go home. Do they have a chance to continue to interact with their classmates? Maybe not.
Yeah, maybe
they just go home at the end of the day.
Maybe in their living like neighborhood.
Maybe in their neighborhood, yeah, maybe. But at the same time, one thing that I oftentimes would see is a lot of children going from after school to going from finishing school to some after school program. They take piano lessons or things like that. Now, obviously, that's something that the government has really discouraged. But now you have schools that try to keep their students at school for a long time, sometimes until 5, 6, 7 o'clock, really late. Yeah. So now the school is. So where's the space or the opportunity for kind of connection and spontaneous play?
Oh, I don't know. I don't have this experience.
Oh, okay. Yeah. It's a little bit depressing.
Oh, yeah. So I'm wondering how, like, watching the kids playing, and also you adults didn't talk about the children, right, in your party. You talk about
yeah, I mean, we talk about our own thing. I had a really interesting conversation with two parents who I talked to them about my school currently trying to start a phone ban. A phone ban as in when students come into the school, they have to leave their phones somewhere. They can't use their phones. They can't access their phones. So I'm not sure if that's surprising, but I think in China, that's probably also something that is done in some schools.
Yes.
But I think that is probably a practice that is spreading all around the world, because increasingly we're recognizing the harm of phones, at least in schools. Now at home, in talking to these parents, one thing that I expressed is that for many parents, they see phones as a way to allow their children to become entertained while, so that they can do their own thing, they can relax, they can sleep, they can at least have a break. So quite often, maybe parents will unfortunately give their children phones and screens to entertain themselves, which we know through a lot of research that it is incredibly harmful for children, for teenagers to be exposed to these kind of the social pressures of having to look perfect, or the bullying, the harm that comes from being on the internet and social media, where people can mock you and disparage you without recognizing that they're actually hurting you, because they don't see your reaction when they send these kinds of mean messages.
Yeah.
And they can gather together in groups to be against people. So it's very nasty, and it leads to a whole lot of social challenges. And so that's why we in our school are trying to ban this kind of thing.
Oh, that's cool. So are you teaching like the high school students, or what kind of school?
Yeah, high school.
High school. Okay. I think in high school, I remember when I was in high school, the phone was not that popular, and
sure.
We don't have like who kept the phone by the school, but normally we in the classroom we will not use the phone. Yeah.
Sure.
Maybe we can use it like when we're back to dormitory.
Yeah, and okay, so that was when you were a high school student. I know that many students now are incredibly connected to their devices. In fact, when they go home, they just go back to the dorms, go back to their rooms. They're on their computers all the time.
Yeah.
All the time for everything.
Yeah.
And we don't make it, as teachers, as educators, we don't make it easy for them, because all the assignments are pushed through the computer. So they have to submit their assignments on the internet as well. And teachers are increasingly using tools that are found online, which incredibly wonderful tools and pieces of information. And as you just did, you organized a watch party. Yeah. There's lots of like digital content out there that is incredibly educative or gives at least information.
Yeah.
So information and learning experiences are all around us. And unfortunately, that kind of promotes just us being more and more attached to screens and to technology. Is it helpful? I don't know. Like when I am trying to get some work done, I know that being on a computer trying to write something, when I find that I don't understand something, I might open up a new tab and try to search it. But before I search it, there are all these other pop-ups and images of news that have just come out, and interesting facts and science studies. And so on that home screen, there's lots of things that will distract me from actually just being able to write. And there are times in which I just find it much more liberating when I journal. Personally, when I do reflective journaling, I just use pen and paper. And it's much more freeing than to write on a computer. So, I mean, it's distracting for me as an adult. So I can't imagine how children who have yet to develop their brain and connections in their brain to resist temptations, how hard it would be for them to stop. And so, like, more often than not, you will hear stories very often of children playing computer games until 3 or 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning, and they're not sleeping. What? No, is that surprising to you?
Okay, how many hours in the morning?
I don't know, but yeah. Like, do you stay up early into the morning on the computer? What are you doing in those hours?
If you mean yes, my days right now, when I'm awake, I'm almost beside the computer or using my phone.
Yeah. And so when you're on the computer on your phone, what are you doing?
I mean, sometimes
like 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning.
Sometimes writing, typing, and also maybe learn something, watching the YouTube video.
Yeah, sure. I mean, there's just, and if we were to kind of like list all of the videos that you're watching, I'm sure it's very educational content. It's not like junk food, but at the same time, uh, it is the thing that kind of draws us increasingly into the tech.
Yeah.
And obviously, these platforms are creating content and feeding content just to ensure that you kind of stay on the platform. So the incentive is not necessarily to make you healthy; it is to keep you on.
Yeah.
And YouTube is longer form and it's more educative, so that's kind of a good thing. But also, there's some other platforms that might just be very junk foody.
Yeah.
It's not healthy.
Of course.
So it's kind of terrifying. And I was just listening to a podcast recently from Andrew Huberman. He's a health expert.
Yeah.
And he was talking about the question was, what are the most, the most key things to being healthy? He's a doctor and researcher. And the first thing he listed was sleep. Sleep. In that sleeping regularly when there's in the evenings and being awake during the daytime, being exposed to sunlight, and in the evenings not being exposed to artificial light. So like these kind of basic things
are too hard. Too hard.
Too hard.
Actually, yeah.
I mean, well, it's hard if you are engaged in evening writing sessions or YouTube watching, right? It is hard that way.
Yes, and sometimes like watching some TV or just browsing the phone. Yeah, I think at least for me, I when I'm like read some books about some health, and I know that sleeping like is the very essential important thing, but I just can't do it in a like regular or sufficient like sleep for enough hour.
Yeah, I'm noticing this, or at least I'm becoming more alert to this particular part of my life as well, sleeping, and how I've never had a problem with sleeping, but I also during the daytime I will always be very like dozy.
Really?
In the afternoon I will be quite tired, and I will find myself like falling asleep or having micro sleeps, and that's probably a reflection of me not sleeping enough or well in the time that I am supposed to be sleeping. And that doesn't feel good, because during the afternoons after eating lunch, I find my brain just to be working at maybe 20% of its ability because I am so sleepy. And it's not as far as like being productive, not productive at all after lunch, not productive at all. And what I also see is around me, my parents and grandmothers, they, I mean, they're at a point in their life where sleeping is a little bit harder for them.
Yeah.
And sometimes when they're not able to get to sleep, or they're traveling and they're having trouble falling asleep at the right time, then they're very confused during the daytime. When they speak, they're not very coherent, or their ideas don't kind of connect together very well, or they don't think reasonably. And so that just comes from a whole lifetime of not paying attention to sleep, I think, which now I come to realize, like, if we are not doing that now well, then in 50, 60 years time, when we are old, then it's going to kind of build up and accumulate in things like dementia, or things like Alzheimer's, like forgetting things, not being clear. Like all these things kind of show up later. I mean, they're not showing up now because we are still young and we feel like we can live forever, but it will show up. And I see that in my parents, my grandmothers. It's so I'm paying definitely much more attention to this kind of stuff.
Oh, wow. Yeah, totally agree with that. You know, for quite a period, I frequently I will start a new routine, like trying to push myself to go to sleep early and get up early. And currently, recently, I can make it that get up early because I need to post the morning reading. Yeah, but sometimes I will go to bed after posting. Yeah, but I believe like as long I can continue continue on this and trying, I can form a new habit.
Yeah, I used to do that too when I was in grad school, from like 27 to 31, I think. Yeah. I also did the same thing. I woke up, I ate breakfast very early, and then I went back to bed. Yeah. It made me feel like I was actually doing something well, as in I was getting up and early on time. But yeah, I think it's something I need to pay much more attention to, because all the effort that I make to try to exercise and to live a healthy life and to eat well, all of that will be of no value if my brain in a few years' time starts to just not process things as quickly, or if I'm not able to make good decisions. And I think that there's something about not sleeping that I think actually is very attractive to some people. It's like they feel like if they're not sleeping, or if they're sleeping less, then it actually is quite heroic, or that they're actually doing a lot. It makes people feel good that they're not sleeping very much and working very hard. They take pride in that kind of thing. And yeah, I guess the more I study people who are successful and like learning about their very intense attention to good sleeping habits, then the more I realize that actually it's not cool to be proud of not sleeping enough. Yeah.
Yeah. And sometimes I notice some people, they will sleep very, very early, like 10 p.m., go to bed, and then maybe get up at 4 a.m. How do you think this? Too early? Oh, but maybe some people, they are the early bird type. I'm not sure about that.
Yeah, well, I think for most people, I mean, biologically, we are controlled by light. And I think there's a small section of people who actually will become tired when exposed to the sun and are most alert at night, so that they have the opposite experience. But for most of us, we are awakened by light. And so I think like going to bed at 10 o'clock, or if you've ever been to a place where like they don't have electricity or televisions. I lived in that kind of environment a few moments in my life, and it was really refreshing to, like, by 7, 8 o'clock at night, nothing is going on. There's no electricity. There's no nothing. And so just what do? Just go to bed. Go to bed. And,
you know,
and those kinds of moments.
When I was in my old town, go back to my village, like to spend time with my parents, like during some holidays, and I will like get sleepy at around 9 p.m. or 8 p.m.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? That without these kinds of stimulations of screens, of YouTube, and you don't have Wi-Fi.
Yeah.
And maybe all of the light comes from candles. I don't know. You become sleepy.
Yeah. So it's totally because of the environment.
Yeah, that we stay up. And so you say people who go to bed at 10 o'clock and wake up at 4 o'clock, that's still only 6 hours of sleep, which for most people is not enough time. And I know during the school year, I definitely have these kinds of experiences. When I have basketball practice in the morning, I will wake up at 4 o'clock, and I'll probably go to bed at 11 o'clock or something. And so I know it's definitely not healthy for me. So that's something that I need to figure out. And fortunately, I'm living a little bit closer to school at this point, so I can wake up a little bit later now. But yeah, yeah. So that's definitely been on my mind.
Oh, cool. So what's your like regular time for sleeping now?
Oh, 11 o'clock to 6, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
Do
11
you
o'clock to
need an
6.
alarm to wake you up, or you just naturally get?
Unfortunately, I just naturally wake up,
Okay.
which is not so good, right? Or maybe is that a good thing? Maybe that's a good thing. Actually, I would say that's probably not a good thing because I can't stay asleep for very long. I can fall asleep really easily, but I can't stay asleep for very long. I know there's some people who can. If you don't give them alarm, they'll sleep until, I don't know,
That's
11,
me.
12 o'clock. And that's you? Okay, okay. If you don't have an alarm, you'll sleep until 11, 12 o'clock. Well, I'm not sure if that's a good thing or not.
It's
Does that
not a
mean that
good
you
thing.
just
I
need
believe it.
it means that you just need a whole lot of sleep.
Yeah.
And 11 or 12 o'clock, yeah. So you're definitely ignoring the sunlight that is now coming in then, right? So you're completely shifting your natural biological sleep patterns.
Mm, yeah. So sometimes these days I set an alarm at 8 o'clock, but if without the o'clock, I think I will sleep to 10 or 12.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, yeah.
Yeah.
But I am like working on it, trying to get up. Yeah, get up early and sleep early. Sometimes.
Well, if you think about how, um, so I think as Barack Obama has this practice of only realizing that he only has like 6 or 7 good decisions in the course of a day. And so that's why he and some other very famous people, they will wear the same clothes every single day because they don't want to waste a decision
Mm,
on what color shirt
mm,
they're going to wear.
yeah.
Or they eat the same lunch so that they don't have to be waste the energy to make
Yeah.
those kinds of decisions, right? So, but just imagine you lay on top of that just a lack of sleep, and in that context, it'll just like probably decrease the number of good decisions that you'll be able to make, right? So, I think that even though we might be awake, maybe we're not making really good decisions,
Mm,
and that is something to be much more concerned about, even if we're able to stay awake during that time.
mm. Yeah. Enough sleep, basic and important.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Especially seeing the old people in my life. You know, when I see the old people in my life and seeing how their brain is actually very clear or
Mm,
maybe not so clear.
mm,
And for some of them, their brain is not very clear,
mm.
even though their body is very,
It's true.
their body is still moving, healthy, okay.
Yeah.
I talk with my dad a lot about this because he's now seeing his own mother very confused and angry sometimes and not thinking very clearly, reasonably. He is taking a whole lot of effort to try to make sure that he gets good sleep, even though he actually has trouble with that. And also exercising, which is actually also good for your brain.
Mm,
But like the ability for us to have a good working brain is super important because if it's not, then we can really harm ourselves quite a lot and also the people around us. I have a friend uh, whose father just was not very happy,
mm.
and and that created a whole lot of challenge for the whole family
Oh, yeah.
in trying to support a father who is just not very happy. Uh, yeah, yeah. My grandmother, she is very miserable, and I'm sure that like all of it has to do with just a brain that is getting older, becoming more cynical, paranoid, and I think that that just comes over time. So to be able to properly treat our brain, super important.
Yes. Just need to take action.
Yeah, today, as in early, instead of when we are too old to be able to even change it.
Yeah. I think it's never too late to start.
Yeah. Yeah, start today. Exactly. Exactly. And surround yourself with young people, children. Just watching the kids play. And also yesterday they brought in some animals, some reptiles, lizards, snakes, things like that. Yeah, and the children just loved touching these animals, and you could see in their expression just so pure.
Yeah.
Touching the animal, getting very excited, and not thinking at all about the people around them, just completely absorbed in that experience. Just it was really fun watching them. Wow. It was really fun watching children who have no concern about any other person in the world. And you know that as we get older, we become absolutely concerned with other people. How do they see us? What do they think of us? Do they think I'm a good speaker or not? Do they think that I have engaged them or not? Yeah, so we become so concerned with other people.
Yeah, of course.
And it's really a joy to see children not concerned at all.
Yeah, that is like the happiness in childhood.
The happiness of children. Yeah, and sometimes it's not, they're not always happy, but there's a spontaneity or purity to their feelings. It's not impacted by other people. If they're scared, it's not impacted. They're not worried about whether other people are going to judge them for being scared. Yeah. If they're angry, they're not trying to. Anyway, lots of experiences of children just expressing feelings because they feel it. Yeah. And I find that as an adult, I definitely have a harder time with that. And you might even feel like in this conversation right now that you express certain feelings because you feel like it's the right feeling to express at the moment, like surprise, delight, like, right? Or smiling, even though maybe on the inside, it's not all that, it's not something that creates this kind of sense in you that you need to smile, but you do it because it's kind of socially what is acceptable, right? Yeah.
Not sure.
So yeah, I mean, like
very happily, and but sometimes I think that it's for me and to express the feelings, it's not that naturally. Oh yeah. And I think that for most cases I would be in a like quiet peace and smiling status.
Sure. I think I also have that kind of challenge sometimes in talking to people. For example, talking to a person that I'm meeting for the first time, I notice myself smiling and laughing much more than I would usually. Ooh. And I know that's probably because I'm trying to make this person feel
Good.
Be or have some kind of positive impression of me. Yeah, so it's like in these kinds of moments when we are, I think for good reason, trying to make other people have a positive impression of us. But then again, that's another moment in which we are doing things not because we have that kind of authenticity ourselves and feeling of happiness, but because we want to appease other people. And that could be for any number of reasons, because we don't feel so secure and we want other people to like us, or because, yeah, I mean, any number of experiences. I know for me, that's probably it too. Like, I want to be liked by other people. I have this insecurity that if they don't like me, it just must mean that I'm not a very valuable or a very, I don't know, interesting person.
Ooh.
So yeah, I think that we all kind of grow into people who are incredibly concerned or preoccupied or attentive of other people's judgment of us. And it's really refreshing to meet people who are not that way, that they're not so concerned. It's actually quite refreshing. Some of them are actually quite, off-putting, like, because, they say something and it maybe makes me feel kind of uncomfortable. And it is very much, maybe like it's surprising, but at the same time, I can really admire people who are not so much thinking about how other people are thinking of it.
Yeah, but I think it's also, it's not all the bad things, because when we grow up, we can like adjust our mood, or to not express it very directly, or when we are very angry or sad, we don't point it out, and we can control it a bit and to express it in a gentle way.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, there are definitely kind of socially acceptable expressions of bad feelings or negative feelings or uncomfortable feelings, so that we don't make other people uncomfortable or feel angry or something like that, right? So yeah, there's a certain amount of control that we have to have that serves a relationship, making it better. We could get very angry and we just start hitting people, but that probably wouldn't be very socially acceptable, right? So yeah, there's a function to it, but then I guess when does that become harmful? When does that become a point where it's kind of like we're just always wearing a mask and hiding what we truly feel? And maybe there are times in which it's valuable to be much more natural in our expression of anger. Because other people actually don't recognize that they've made us angry. And so that expression of anger is incredibly valuable as feedback to the people that we are interacting with, to let them know that, oh, you've actually really hurt me. Yeah. Or people who kind of hide their pain.
Yeah.
And because they feel like if they were to express their pain or their weakness or something, that they'll be judged by other people as weak.
Yeah.
And for me, I just recently had a very refreshing conversation with a friend who's been going through quite a tough experience. And she's been, I find it's so impressive that she's just in this the really challenging experience, which some people would almost want to hide. She's found the courage to share it with other people, seek out other people, not like, I don't want to be a burden to other people, or I don't want to let other people know of the challenges that I'm going through. And I find that so impressive, and not only impressive, but I think it's made our relationship much closer, as she's kind of shared about these experiences and challenges that she's going through. So it has been a gift to our relationship. Yeah. So there's a balance. There's definitely a balance.
Yeah. And I think that it turns out that we still need to build some close relationship that we, or a secure environment that we can share or just express our attitudes or mood. It may be more easy to express it in a safe environment, at least.
Definitely.
Or with the close friends. And then for most of the speech or the public sharing, and they might have been shared with their close friends, and maybe they have adjust their mood, and they're open to share with more people.
Yeah, I've one thing I've noticed, and we've talked about this before, about how in Toastmasters, people are somehow supposed to represent the best of themselves. So in their speeches, they will oftentimes kind of communicate in ways that kind of reveal the good side of themselves, or even if it's a story that is about challenge, it's always about kind of arriving at a very positive point that they're now stronger as a result. And I always found that very, I'm not gonna say fake, but it's just very, it's kind of like what posts on WeChat. You go through 10 pictures and you choose the best looking one to represent your experience, which actually might not have been your experience, but it actually just looks the best. You're being on a vacation on a beach, and here's the best picture, but actually that was not representative of your experience. So I think we, or at least in Toastmasters, and other places as well, we share, but we share only a certain kind of version of ourselves that we want other people to think is a good version of us. And yeah, and I think that when you talk about that safety, there's lots of people who perpetually almost never feel safe enough to be able to share with other people. And maybe that's kind of like just a lesson that is learned from life, or just this kind of desire to always try to present the best side of themselves, which is not healthy either. Yeah, there are a number of podcasters that I've been listening to. One that I think about in particular, who is kind of pretty open about his struggles, his challenges, his failures, and I find it so refreshing to listen to. I almost feel like I've developed a relationship with this person, even though I just listened to him talking about this kind of experience. But it's so quite refreshing. And sometimes it's just, I don't know what to do about it. I have my son is kind of experiencing this challenge, or he doesn't want to talk with me. I don't know what to do about it. And that kind of honest, I don't know, I can feel this kind of great respect for. And this is a guy who is super successful.
Yeah.
And somehow he's able to kind of express these feelings. And I find that to be really like a really admirable quality of a person who now in this day and age, talking about what it means to be masculine or a man. And this is a whole nother topic, but just in thinking about men and in society, what we think are attractive men, or what we think is the model of a man. Oftentimes we might think of this like very strong person who's a protector, who makes money and supports their family and things like that. And so it was actually quite refreshing hearing this podcaster, being as successful as he is, kind of admitting sometimes the challenges or the faults or the confusions, or the feeling of not knowing that he has in life.
But he would not only share these challenges, right? He will also share his other aspects.
Yeah, for sure. So we know this person as a successful person. But I find that at least I gravitate towards people who can express that kind of honesty. I know there's other people who will only be attracted to people who always comes across as very confident and knowing lots of people and well connected and things like that. But I find that there's something really appealing about people who are able to be open about their weaknesses, because at times that shows more strength, I think. That shows a greater sense of security. In fact, I mean, we have a US election right now, where there is one candidate who tries to come across as very tough, very strong, very rich, very successful, but actually that person doesn't come across that way. Even in their best effort to do that, they just seem very insecure.
Okay.
They seem not very confident with themselves. So yeah, there's something really refreshing about seeing people who are able to kind of show a certain weakness.
Yeah.
And if anything, I would advocate for that much more so in any Toastmaster speech. I think that is something that is missing in many cases. Too many perfect stories. Happy ending, right?
Yeah. Maybe because if not, for most like on the speech, if not like you have convey like your attitude change or the changes has been brought to you, then it might be not that convincing or powerful. Maybe for most of the speech.
Yeah, I mean, there's a certain kind of formula for Toastmaster speeches. It's transformation, it's about change, it's about growth, and yeah, and I know that there are a lot of people who will be very attracted to these kinds of speeches because it kind of puts in themselves a certain hope that whatever challenge that I'm experiencing, I can do better. And that's why people come to Toastmasters. I am not a good public speaker. I'm not a good leader. I'm not a good organizer at the moment. But if I work hard, I can realize this transformation that I see in this champion speaker who's on the stage. I can be that kind of person as well. So there's some real allure, some real appeal to these kinds of speeches. It makes us feel hopeful. Certainly. Yes. But I would say that for the most part, when I talk to people, well, especially at Toastmasters, at clubs, like the people who are speaking are just people that I'm relating to. I'm not seeing them as my idol or something, right? And so I like people you see on a screen who are at these kind of world championship competitions. Okay, so those people are like celebrities, athletes, and I can see them at a distance and I can admire them at a distance. But for the most part, at a club, I find it so much more refreshing to talk with people who are open, who are not, because I can tell, like, okay, you're not very successful, or you actually, like, I can see you. Yeah. So you don't have to pretend that everything is great or that you've somehow magically become very clear and sure about yourself.
Yeah. I think in the club or because we met very quite just once a week, so it's like share our daily life and also with the experience that would be more close with each other.
Yeah, digging deeply into our experiences and our feelings. And I think that, okay, so that's the part. And then taking this back full circle to watching kids and their genuine expression of feeling and how we are very well practiced to not, to hide it, to dumb it down, to control it. And in that way, I think that really often we're not very in touch with our feelings. I find that I am not very in touch. I used to have a girlfriend who would say, David, stop it. You are not in touch with your feelings. And she was right. She was someone who was very in touch with her feelings, almost to the point of like, whoa, way too much. But I know for me, I have a real challenge sometimes with just feeling something to the nth degree. So in my time, I really try to practice. Like I really enjoy watching movies that make me cry because I will lean into those sad experiences and just like try to sit with that sadness. Whereas there are some other people who will be watching really sad movies and they'll be like, yeah, I'm not going to cry. I am tough. I just find myself kind of leaning right into it and really experiencing that sadness.
Yeah. So do you watch the TV, like watch the movie in the theater or at home?
Oh, you're wondering, am I in the privacy of my own home and so I can express this kind of feeling safely? I don't go to the theaters very much, so yeah, I'm usually at home. But I will still watch movies with other people, and there are definitely experiences where I just lean right into it and I express that sadness. I've done this a few times in the classroom, actually, where we're talking about something and I share something maybe from my own life and it makes me really sad, or I talk about a topic that I feel deeply caring about. And it's like, maybe it's about, okay, what was the last? Okay, the one really memorable experience was, I was talking with, the topic in class was about harm to self and about stress and about feeling depressed. And I try to encourage people that if they ever felt that way, that they should really talk to me.
Yeah.
And just in kind of sharing that and imagining students feeling so much pain that they would try to hide that from other people, from trusted adults in their life. Just that thought made me so sad that in that moment I started crying in the class because I felt so sad. And it and there's a moment where I caught myself. It's like, oh my goodness, students are going to see me. And so I kind of held back just this very moment. And then there's another side of me that just thought, no, this is okay. This is kind of showing to other people that I deeply, deeply care, that they feel that it's okay to come and talk to somebody about it if they're ever kind of in this moment of feeling really incredible pain with their life, stress about their life, or sadness with their life. And yeah, so I just kind of leaned into that sadness, and I definitely got very wet-eyed, and I hope that they saw that too, because I think that even though we are somehow supposed to be teachers or authority figures in the classroom, being able to show that sadness is actually incredibly valuable. And just thinking about another experience, I also, just when I was working as a clinical counselor, I remember there were just a number of times in which I did also show my sadness and cry with other people.
Yeah.
And I remember studying this, like we talked about this when I was doing my counseling psychology training. Should you cry? Should you cry with your client? And like, what are your thoughts on that? Should you cry when you're working with a client?
I think from most cases, we should not cry.
Because
to deliver a professional image and to show that we can manage the things in this cooperation.
Yeah, so that would be the kind of thinking. We have to remain professional. Also, there's another side where if you cry, if you start losing it, then the client is going to feel quite out of control. Like, oh my God, my experience must be really bad if this person is also going to cry about it and losing control about it, right? So, so there's that kind of caution. But I find that there are actually also many interactions in which crying is, I think, or showing our feelings is actually absolute right thing to do. Like getting angry, hearing someone tell their story about being hurt by someone, showing anger, I've found to be an incredibly valuable way to connect with someone. Like, that is outrageous. You should be angry about that. There's no situation in which that is okay. And I saw one of my professors who was training us do this on a number of occasions, and I saw how valuable it was in creating the sense of closeness and connection with the person. And also like showing sadness, like hearing your story, I just feel so sad that you had to experience that. And so it's not about losing control, which I think is something we all kind of are afraid of, right? We need to maintain this professional image, you said. We need to come across as strong and confident and assured, but actually, in some moments, to be human is to experience. To be human is to experience. So watching a movie, that is sad. To be human is to experience feelings. So I'm still working on it. I'm not so good at it. I'm definitely not as good as other people at it, because there's definitely moments in which some people say, "Oh, you're so calm, you're so collected." Yeah. And there are times in which I wish I wasn't as much. But in movies, in watching movies, sad movies, I definitely try to lean into that experience.
Okay, you know what? I in my surroundings, I think you are quite like sensitive person that I knew, who will like express their feelings, angry or sadness. I'm not sure. I'm not sure. Like you know, when we are expressing our happiness, like we are watching a movie or something is really interesting, that I will like laugh out. But what like when when it comes to like a sad moment, it's like it's just like, oh, stay silent. Don't let anybody else know.
Don't let anybody else know about our weakness, right?
Like
That we are being influenced by this. Yeah. Happiness is also always pretty easy to express. It's the sadness, or it's the anger, or it's all these things that society tells us is not acceptable to show other people, especially if you're, I would say, a male. Don't show these kinds of feelings, because then you'll seem like you're weak, or you'll be judged to be weak.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, I think that those people who do judge others who show sadness as weak are probably a little bit insecure themselves. And also because they spend the time to judge others and feel satisfied that they are stronger than the person that they see as expressing sadness, which I think is a pretty weak action, pretty insecure action.
Yeah. It might be. And also I think that if in like in uh public like occasion, I think to let the tears down or to cry, I think it's quite awkward.
Yeah. Well, okay. So can you identify what situations that you're thinking of?
No, I mean when I'm watching the movies, I will also like just not cry so much.
Okay, yeah. Then when you say it's awkward for who? For you?
Yes.
Oh. And dig into what makes that awkward.
I think a cry is an like uncommon thing. Maybe, yeah. It's uncommon for me to cry.
Uncommon thing.
Yeah.
Is it uncommon or is it human?
Yeah, it should be human.
It should be human. It should be human. You're human when you feel joyful at seeing some kind of scene where other people are happy. You're human when you see someone going through pain and you also feel pain or sadness too. It feels human. And unfortunately, as we become more connected to our phones and communicate only through screens, then it becomes harder and harder to practice those moments of genuine feeling. Those moments of genuine feeling, because like you can do it through emojis. Yeah. And even in having video chats, right? We are getting closer to that. But actually, not really. It's not the same as just being with someone in person all the time.
Yeah.
And it's like these 1 hour conversation. You'll have this conversation. You're very cheerful and you are expressing surprise when we have these conversations and I say something. And then afterwards, when you finish, you go, oh, okay, done. And you have a completely different set of feelings. But oftentimes when we are on the screen, we are performing. We're not experiencing. We are performing.
Yeah, but I think it's not that like in the on the screen. I think if we are together with another one, that will be the casual.
It will be
like no matter it's on screen or we are not open like this camera. I think this quite usual as the daily things.
Are you saying that there are some people who would still find it hard in person? They would still be performing. And when I say performing, it's kind of like, just wearing the mask and being happier and being not as sad and all these kind of things. It's like you're being a version of yourself that because you're aware of how other people are judging you, then you are being a version of yourself that might come across as more successful and better and stronger than you actually are. Which yeah, we do because it's socially correct, right? Like for my friend who's going through this tough experience, it would almost come across as very strange if she at school started crying or doing things like that. But and so we have to perform at times, right?
Yeah.
But like you said, are there situations in which we can feel safe to be able to not perform? That is a very good thing. That's a very relaxing environment to be in. That's a very comfortable environment to be in. So I think like when I see people in relationships, like if you go to any kind of Chinese mall, you'll see lots of couples, young couples walking around. And there is a sense that both of them are just performing, performing for each other. And then that's probably like a very early stage in a relationship where each person wants to make the other person impressed with them or admire them more like them. Right?
Mm.
But there's something really comforting when in not performing, in feeling comfortable and confident to not perform, that people still accept who you are.
Yeah, I think it has to like go through a period or time that from unfamiliar to familiar, and then trust each other and to show more.
Some people spend a long time getting to that point because I think that they just feel perpetually unsafe, or that they maybe are not so good at not performing, that they're always performing. And so that's also a challenging one too, if you're always performing.
Yeah.
Some people more real than others, or more comfortable in just like, okay, I'm a little bit tired today, or what have you, right? So, and I find that that is something I have a hard time with. Like, it's nice talking in this kind of context, but if I am out, if I meet someone who I have not met before, I will find that I perform. And that's still something I have to kind of check myself on. It's like, why am I overdoing something? Can I just be?
Maybe it depends. It depends, like in what situation. Like if you when just go out to shopping or just to walk around, if those people are not like without any relationship or connection with you, they are just changes, and then we don't care what our like behaviors or our expressions would be. But if we come to an occasion, like I come to a meeting or go to meet someone, then I would need to like adjust my status. Right.
Yeah, possibly. Although I think that there's still a potential opportunity to perform less, even if we are in these kinds of situations where we're meeting people for the first time. Yeah. To go from being very distant from someone, as in wearing a mask, performing, to really getting to know someone quickly and honestly. And I find that it gives permission for other people to also put down their mask and stop performing. And that is quite refreshing. Yeah.
Yes.
And I would actually challenge you or invite you to look at how you express yourself. Like, turn the volume down, like take this recording and watch yourself, and how at the very beginning, how you express yourself and how you're expressing yourself now. And you will see a change. You'll see a difference. I'm not sure if it's because of the content of what we're talking about, or you feeling just more comfortable as we go.
Okay.
But I think you might be able to see some difference.
Oh, that's great. It might be because like at the beginning it's just stepping into the topic. Oh, I don't know.
Possible. Yeah, you can check and you can let me know what you think it is.
Yeah, that's really interesting.
Yeah. So there you go.
Okay. Well, I think sometimes like watch the replay, it's just more helpful to watch the performance at that time.
Yeah, sure. Sure. Well, I think we've actually covered quite a lot of territory.
Yeah. So let's say today we talk. It's quite like random, but still we have like a focused.
It is totally random, but it all came out of like watching children and seeing how they don't have that performance.
That's cool.
They express things much more
genuinely. You always dive deep into this, like maybe for some other people they must see that as a very common phenomenon, or they just don't think about it. So would it like you always like make some reflection on your days, or it just like
yeah, I don't know okay, yeah, I do notice, but yeah, I do think about it. I think that what is this called? There's some comedians who do this kind of thing. I think it's called observational humor, as in they are able to see just a very simple interaction in the world, and they're able to make it funny, or they're able to kind of talk a lot about it. And I find that to be quite refreshing, because there's a lot in that very small thing. And I think that if we just pay a little bit more attention, we will actually notice the beauty, the complexity, or the aspects of human nature that are revealed to us every single day.
Yeah.
And if we're just training our brains to watch TikTok videos, and obviously we are only going to see the loudest message possible, because these videos are meant to like give you a really, really clear and strong opinion or point of view. So we just kind of stop and we observe carefully. We'll notice things that we might not have otherwise.
Yeah, totally agree. I think I also I don't like browsing the short videos. The content is very, very short, and it's just like someone take an opinion to me.
Yeah, exactly. So being able to observe it and kind of look at situations and notice things that other people don't notice, I find that that's really a talent that some people have. And it's not like guessing, it's not overthinking something. It's like people just really are very observant.
Yeah.
And they notice how someone is nervous, or that they're not very sure of themselves, or that a person looks very sad today, even though they show that they're happy, or something like that. And that's valuable, because noticing that in other people then allows us to maybe step in to help, or to read the situation better, or to, I don't know, anything.
Yeah. At least they are sensitive, and realize what's happening and be more careful.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking that recently I started the daily habits of recording what's the happy moments in every day. So I think this is also helpful with recording the beautiful moments, or help me dig deeper into the things only.
That's fantastic.
Yeah.
I know that is also a very good practice for being happy, is to reflect on our grateful moments. Nice. That's great.
Right. And but I do it on the online platforms, so I'm still on the script.
No problem. No problem.
Okay.
As long as you are writing freely and able to recall it. Yeah, I find that writing these kinds of notes and digitizing it is actually quite good, because in many years' time I can look back on it too.
Yeah.
I support you in that. That's good. It's good use of technology.
Okay. Yeah, I'm doing the private record right now, but I am also pushing myself to make a public, but maybe not on my daily record, but on some topic, and to post on my public account.
Cool.
Working.
Good luck.
Okay, great. Yeah. So it's a lovely talk. What's your time now?
10:30. So I will be going to bed.
Okay. Go to bed early.
Yes, exactly. Exactly after. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I can't imagine that you also become the person who needs to sleep or control your sleep.
Well, if you don't worry about it now, then it'll just come back to haunt you later on.
Yeah, great. Okay, sleep good. Sleep well.
All right, thank you.
Great, thank you. Nice. Bye.
See ya. See ya.
Okay, this is the end of our conversation. To be continued. See you next episode.